It's Sunday.
What day?
Sunday.
The day of the sun?
Sunday. Yeah. Good morning, boys.
Good morning.
Howdy. Howdy, y'all.
Welcome to the wildest show on the internet.
I'm gonna rope a fat girl with my penis. Yee-haw!
That's the best way. I hear.
That was the roughest sip of coffee. That's almost came out of my nose. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hello. Good morning.
Yeah.
That cleared my voice.
Yeah. Get some of my own real quick.
That only took like 3 seconds to go south.
Yeah. Right. We already veered off the rails.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So it's Sunday. It's time to talk about coloring again.
Sweet. So we're talking about texturing, if I'm not mistaken.
That's backgrounds and textures.
To do or not to do
Just
or
get
not
a bunch
to.
of photos, paste them in there, and you're all done, guys.
That's what I was gonna say.
Man, that's
to do or not to do
episode.
photo bombing.
What? That's not how you do it?
I mean, I hear that's one way to do it.
I got you. Okay.
Man, just lobbing bricks at windows like Antifa over here and shit.
Yeah, I don't know. What? Yeah.
Let's catch up for a second. So Sim,
Yes.
how has your week been? I hear you've been a little not so good.
I've been having some intestinal issues for a week, but that's getting back. But right now, like for the last 2 days, I came up with I think it's like a sinuses. What do you call it? Sinusitis.
Sinus.
Whatever. Yeah, sinus infection or something. I don't know. It's for the last 2 days. It's just bugging me. But other than that, I'm doing great. The kids are doing great. Logan went to get tested. We're waiting for the results. Our quarantine should be over very soon.
Make sure
So
to get yourself some vitamin C, some zinc, and some heroin or something, just to take the edge off.
Okay, not the last one. I'm already on weed.
Okay.
Skip
the last one.
Dude, I'm quitting smoking cigarettes. Don't give me something worse, okay?
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I've been downing vitamin D and zinc like crazy. So
Yeah.
And now,
who knows if that's true, but
Mm.
might as well be prepared.
I picked up 3 more backers this weekend.
Hey,
It's kind of cool.
Congratulations, man.
excellent.
And we have
Stoked for
16
that.
days left.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, dude.
Where's all of our colorist friends at?
Well, I posted the link into the group chat, and maybe they'll show up.
Bunch of slackers.
Maybe
Bunch
they
of
will.
slackers.
I mean, it is
happens.
early on Sunday.
Yeah.
And that
Usually I'm still sleeping.
that usually means that they muted that.
Well, I mean, it's not like we're on episode 8 or anything.
Yeah.
It's like 8 weeks of the same show, but it's
8 already.
It's
this
a
is
good
the 8th show.
It's a great
Yeah.
show.
Time goes by fast.
8th show.
8th show.
Mm-hmm. Inkspots, what about yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Any horrendous drains this week?
Yeah, fucking lots of shitty work as usual. Clearing toilets. And yeah, I had a weird thing happen to me on Friday. Like I was off early and they told me I could go home. So I get home, take a shower, just sit down to eat something. And they're like, oh, we need your help. The on-call guy is all tied up. He's not going to be able to make it to this call. It's an emergency. You need to get out there. So I'm like, fuck, man, I'm off work. You're already out of work mode and ready for the weekend. So I got to get dressed. I go to this call, get the sewer machine off, get ready to unclog this drain, and I look up, and the guy that's on call drives by and waves at me, smiling on his way home. And I'm just like, you mother... That's some shit, man. So, yeah, he started my weekend out wrong, but then I had a good weekend. You know, I got to be on Jimmy Reyes's show and got to be on actually a couple of casts with him, and he's like a inker dude that
he's a
David Finch. So yeah, and he's got his book out, his new comic book. So we talked about that a bit. So that was fun.
Isn't Reyes fully 100% digital inks too?
Yeah, he went from traditional to fully digital now, but it's really hard to tell. So yeah, he's really.
I know. I was looking at his technique. I was watching him because he was doing it live, and I was watching his strokes and his you know, his technique, and I couldn't. I'm like, if I didn't know that was digital, I probably wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, I tried the same thing. I even had I got his brushes, but I couldn't make him do what he was making him do. So whatever.
Yeah, it's part of it's probably a muscle memory thing, but also finely tuned brushes too. You know, the brush dynamics are exactly right. So, well, for me, I've just been trying to finish Xenotype, dude. Getting closer and closer every day. I got the stack of pages I had to complete is a little smaller today than it was last week. Got like 2.5 pages done yesterday, and hopefully get another 2 pages done today.
Damn,
so, we'll see.
That's some speed coloring, yo.
Well, it's because I front loaded a lot of work and got a lot of things I could do mobile on my iPad done.
Yeah,
I was doing some masking on my iPad, so right when I exported from Procreate as a PSD, all of the overlays that I had, I just made into selections and boop, posted into a mask or pasted into a mask. So
he also got himself a freaking pen display instead of a graphic tablet, which doubles your speed.
Yeah, that's helped a lot.
Does. Like
it really has.
It's stupid to say. Just the fact that you're looking at a piece of paper and drawing, not looking at the screen, having that auto adjustment having to do, really buys you a lot of time. It goes way faster. It's more intuitive.
Yeah, I can do for me, either or is about the same. Like the thing I liked about the non-screen tablets is the texture. You know, when you put that plastic down, they have that like paper finish on it. So I always like that about my Wacom. You know, I think I had an Intuos 4 was the last one I owned like that, and it had a really paper finish on it, and that was real nice.
That's why I like the U1 too. The new U1s, the Canvas Pro, because don't just take any U1. Anything before Canvas were Canvas Pro is when they became like Cintiq. Like
you can buy.
You have everything.
You can buy screen protectors for the Wacom that are like they're like pieces of glass almost, but they're thick plastic that have a tooth on them.
Oh, nice.
But the thing is, like the tip on these Wacom on the new ones, it's really sensitive. So these things wear down fucking quick. I bought another bag of them off of Amazon the other day.
Me, I can say
I'm changing them out every 2 days or so.
With Cintiq, I thought that it felt too much like a glass window type of thing.
Yeah.
But with U1, they come up with that. It comes with the texture. Like the entire screen, it comes with it. So you have that paper feel to it.
The only issue with that I've seen with having the paper texture on the screen is there's a slight milkiness sometimes, depending on
when you're coloring it. And then after it doesn't take very long using, because I had my old Cintiq had that like glued onto it already.
Yeah.
And it like completely destroyed it. You know, that the tooth like came off and it was like all milky like that. And I ended up having to actually peel it off the glass. And at that time you weren't supposed to do that. But I peeled it all off. I was all freaking scared. And then it was just glass underneath. So I kind of got used to the texture now, like the plastic on the glass. I'm used to it now. So,
well, now they're clings. Now instead of glue, they're just clings.
That's nice.
They just kind of statically stay there. So
I think that's why I didn't like the iPad Pro, because it has the rubber tip against the glass. I couldn't get used to that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm used to the plastic on glass feel. So
I never like rubbing my tip on glass either. It's kind of uncomfortable.
I did like rubbing my tip on ass, but not on glass.
Fair enough. Let's address the chat. Let's see. We got Edwin the Ace. We got Chuck. We got Bogdan. Jim Cox. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Michael says he's not home yet.
Oh, I skipped over Beacon because I was going to address him specifically. Get here when you can, Beacon. It's all good, brother.
Whatever, Beacon. You should be here already.
He's a church going man. I tried to make it late enough to where it would address all of our church going friends. But sometimes the service runs long. You got to get a donut. You got to be with the people.
Hey, Scott.
You know what I'm saying?
Can you share my screen for a sec? Little preview for people. Right now, I did. One of the things I've done in the last few days is I laid out like a 20-page story, and I started doing the finishing. So I'm trying to finish an entire 24-page story before the end of the month. It's my Inktober, and as you can see, I'm taking that more greedy style.
I like it. I like the dry brush. It's kind of nice. I would color hold the fuck out of that.
Here's one of the pages, and as you can see on the side, they're all there. So this is a little something I'm trying. It's a little experiment. That's why I keep saying, so some of the cool stuff came from experimental movies and comics too, and sometimes you just try to let go. So this is me using remember when I showed you my wolf dragon? I have a more greedy style on that one. That's a more like a Bisley-ish type of thing. So this is what I'm using here, and those I can pull a page a day. But on that one I still have to do the layouts, the concept art, and everything as I go. I'm improvising.
Are your spatters on separate layers?
Yep.
That's good. Looks like she's gonna pee on that guy's head.
But as you can see, you see little eyes there coming out. Here's a little spoiler that I haven't shown yet.
Oh, nice.
You see those 3 little critters? And she's like, what the fuck? Takes the gun out. Then there's 5.
Are those little dudes from Star Wars? Those little bastards are everywhere.
And
Jawas.
They're not Jawas.
I like their design. That's really cool.
Thanks. I'm trying to give them a wink of remember the Darklings and mixed with the Gremlins?
Yeah. They've almost got a dark Namekian feel from Dragon Ball.
Yeah. So this is
their little Namek demons.
This is a preview of what I'm working on called Hellzone with Aaron. So
nice.
This is me pulling out a comic in a month.
Oh wow.
Sim's usually working on 5 things at once.
Yeah. Usually, yeah.
I can only handle one thing.
I'm working on this. This is for Tales from the Nightverse 2. This is one of the first story of Luani. This is where I'm at. Finishing that little CD shot.
He's got a let's get the fuck out of here kind of a vibe.
And she just goes.
All right, I got to restart Spartan, so I'll be back.
Okay.
All right, later.
We're just checking this out.
And I always have something like that open. For
what's that last mech thing there? What is that?
I'm not going to show it too much. That's concept art and stuff that's going to show up and not the merc. I always have a little an extra little thing there that's always for ideas. Sometimes I'm drawing something and I'll go gives me an idea when I'm working on a texture or something. You're hey, maybe a building so that's what happened. I went here and I'm like, maybe if I did weird organic type of buildings, so I'm leave a note.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with that mech there. Yeah. So I keep saying it, dude. There's everything in that merc, including giant robots.
Yeah. Morning Cap. Ink Spots is just restarting. He had to He had to do a thing and then restart his computer. So, how are you? Are you muted? No. StreamYard's managed to switch his microphone again.
Yeah. Anyways,
Loud outburst in Scottish in 5, 4, 3.
Fuck hell!
Check me out.
There you go.
Good morning, sir.
Can you hear me okay?
Now I can. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
my mic's a little bit far away because I'm actually right in the middle of filming a thing.
See, I had him pretty good too, right?
So I'm imagining your knees are very wide. You're kind of sitting low, and you've got an iPhone down between your legs.
I would never use Apple, not even if they paid me.
Okay, you've got a camera pointed up your kill right now. Is that what you're talking about?
Not quite.
Oh, okay.
See if I can show you.
All right. Well, we can
It won't let me show you because it's fucking OBS is recording at the same time.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Devices are taken, as it were.
I'm painting a skateboard.
Is that a ball you're shaking around in the paint can?
This for now is I've done the background, finished the background, and then the bit over the top I've done using graphite paper.
Oh, okay.
And now I'm using a Posca pen just to lay the base down, or to do the outline and lay a base coat down so that I can then go back over it with acrylic and finish it off.
Jim, just to address that, yes. Like myself, I am a Western Scot. He is a Southern Scot.
Excuse me?
So he doesn't have a Scottish accent. He's got a British accent. Rip.
Oh, so he's one of those fake Scottish. Got it.
No, barely. Well, no. I was farmed out for education. That was my sin.
So you lost the mother tongue from going to university, huh?
No. This goes back to being 6-7 years old. I was farmed out for education. University did fuck all for me. No, I wasn't allowed to speak of my native tongue at school. It was frowned upon.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I was made to change it. The same way in my father's era, he was made to write with his right hand because he's left-handed.
Yeah, it's the same. It was the same here. Like that, there's the French rule here, and even though my grandfather from my mom's side was English, right? You're not even allowed to speak English to a friend in school or even in the schoolyard. Everything was French. Dude, you can't even put a poster in a store. You know, it's illegal to put an English poster in the store, even if you advertisement for your product, even if it's an American product.
Yeah, my company sells to both Costco in Canada and Staples in Canada, and both of those retailers we have to write everything twice.
Yep.
And then if it's not in the same size font, you'll get fined and shit. So it's what you can say in English in 3 words, you have to write a fucking paragraph in French.
And since you deal with that shit, you know very well what I mean when I say it's not the same type of fucking French. Because the French don't want our type of French, and here they don't want French. There's 2 type of different French, even in writing. Right. It's weird, but it's true.
Well, it's similar to like Portuguese from Portugal and Brazilian Portuguese. They are different.
True.
Wow. The only French I like is French fries and French toast. That's it.
Well, French fries are actually from Belgium, my friend. I hate to tell you that.
Yep.
Listen, don't destroy my illusions, Mr. Fuckhead.
I can only try.
Yeah. Let's give the frogs fucking a cornerstone on cutting up potatoes and cooking them in oil.
See, Passion's like Sim can't speak either language. I'm like, at least I can speak more than one. Pendejo.
Oh, that sounds like 3 actually. That's actually Spanish.
Yo hablo español. Claro, piquito.
I can count to 10 in Spanish. That's it.
Ooh. No,
my grandfather's from Mexico, so
my bro here is Mexican.
Nice.
Rotten Glory says, can anyone see my comments? Been having problem in YouTube chats. Nope, can't see them.
I can only see your penis.
No, but that is true though. We were in another chat, and we had to be authorized by a mod, me and him.
Really?
Yep.
We
We were in
an individual channel.
Joseph something. What's his last name? The guy from Slaughterhouse.
Oh, yeah. Joseph.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I know
Joe.
it's Joseph.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Joe. Yeah. Beefy
Slaughterhouse Joe. There you go.
Beefy Bull.
Beefy Bull.
Joe Bull. There you go. Get Joe Ball and we get Joe
Everyone
Bull.
go to Google and look up Beefy Bull.
I don't think it sounds like something you would want to Google. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. Well, today, in the episodic saga that is coloring comics, we've covered a lot of the how to start, the next step, how to flat, rendering basic things like skin and hair. Now, this is a point where I think, honestly, where sequential art is either elevated or made to look kind of just whatever, you know what I mean, is how people texture and the backgrounds they choose, what they choose to do with the backgrounds. That really separates, I think, sequential art from like, you know, the good stuff to the kind of phoned in stuff. That's where you really see it. I mean, you can phone in hair and skin and figure work and stuff like that too, but it's really obvious if your backgrounds suck, you know. So let's talk about texturing and background techniques and things like that. So Sim, when you've done coloring work, I know you worked on a little book called Cybershock.
Yep.
And that to say that one needed some background work to really boost it up, I think is a little bit of an understatement, because as a colorist, I've seen you showed me some of both the pencils and inks and finished colors.
Yeah, I had to improvise and finish some of the backgrounds with colors.
Are there any examples that you can share?
Hold on, let me go get.
Okay.
But I did not use any picks or stuff like that. I just went in and drew in shapes with the lasso, and rain, a lot of rain. That's one of the things that was fun, is I could pull out a lot of shit because in the scenario there was a lot of rain. But the thing is, the guy drew rain in 2-3 pages, and the rest they had no rain, so I had to go in and add the rain myself
for continuity.
Yeah.
And that was and how did you go about adding rain to every page? Did you create a brush for that, or did you?
I had a brush for it, and what I did is I had to go in and to make it look good, I did a background behind everything rain. Then I did one over the blacks a bit
on top of the ink
with a glow, right? So it gave a little bit of a brighter thing, it had a brighter effect. So how can I say, it wasn't white. Instead of doing a multiply, do it instead of putting on multiply, right, and hoping that it had a little effect on it, I just went white and put it with the glow effect with just a little bit of gray, and it gave it that look that I wanted over the blacks. So I did that, and I did one of those color holes to cut in a little bit. So it gave it that 3-dimensional type of rain ambient, and I went in the back and put like darker colors and stuff like that. So it gave you like that foggy a bit, you could say, ambience to the.
So do you have the samples, or did you have to go to a safe deposit box and get a USB stick out of it in the bottom of your dungeon? Where's it at?
Right here.
Here we go. All right. So we got some Cybershock here.
Here's an example. That was the page I got.
So panel 1 is just a couple of eyes and a few strands of hair.
Yeah, that's just a face with a mask. Then you have a foot, a hand. The hand's not even fully done. Then you had
you had to color over that?
Yep,
Those are just like rough.
I know. And this is what I did.
Look what Sim did to that.
Nice. Cool, man.
Looks like he completely redrew it.
Okay, so I see what you mean. You added over ink effects. You added that glistening glow.
Yep. See
to make
how
it
it
feel
does
rainy.
over the colors too. So that
Yeah.
with the color hold, I could affect the colors on it. So you have the rain in the background that's his own little shade, and then you have the other one that's really more glistening. And when the punches, the impact here, it gives it that extra little oomph to it. And I also used it to have, when you're in the rain, right? You have that rain that bouncing off your shoulder or bouncing off your hair that have that little more glistening. That's the one you notice more, right? So that's what I played with here to kind of like, you're not paying attention to that. There's no background.
I see
Here's
you
another
built up the
example.
plane along the bottom there with a lot of water, extra water droplets to define the ground.
Hold on, is that one? I'm looking for another one of those
I
sample
fucking hate
pages.
water in comics. It's ridiculous.
The what?
Water in comics. Fucking annoying.
Xenotype is on a rainy planet, so Cap and I know the
See?
struggle.
This is what I had before, like telling me that there was rain. So you can't really color well with this. So I had to freaking do like a color hold type of thing, and this is what I did with it.
Yeah.
As you see, I added a lot of like ambience with the rain and this. Like, look at this here. I'm pretty proud of that one.
Nice. Yeah, that's some serious finishing work there.
Here's another one. I get this. And as you can see, the tank is supposed to be on legs. That one looks like it's a regular tank, right?
Okay.
So I had to go and kind of like take your attention away from it.
It looks like a tank that's been given a parking meter. A parking, the clamps, parking clamps.
Oh, a boot.
But the worst one, the one that hold on. Where's the bike one? I don't want to show everything, but is it that one? Yeah. See here? Here I had trouble understanding what the hell that was going here.
Get some zooms. Throw some zooms in there.
At first I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like I thought that was a ship or something, and then it took me a while to understand that he's pressing a button on something. And something's coming out, like what? But there's just a leg in the end, and I think popping out. There's nothing, right?
Oh, okay. So that's like a missile turret or a gun turret popping out of the side of the bike.
Yeah. So I went in and I actually colored in a bike.
Oh, dang. Okay.
And as you can see, like there's nothing to.
Yeah, it's relatively open. Passion for drawing says, I call it the make it less shitty brush.
Oh, Passion, you're fun.
That's right.
Well, yeah, that was my Cybershock work.
Nice. So that was a series of overlays, underlays, textures, and
glows and color hold. Yeah. And the fact that I can draw in shapes also helps a lot. The fact that I can just go in the back and draw like a dark gray building quickly and make it look good,
So in that example, that's an example of really wide open work where it's dependent on the colorist for a lot of depth. If that was intended for you to do, like sometimes an artist will be very loose and very open with their work. In, I mean,
look, in his defense,
trying to be
he was planning on he was planning on coloring it himself. But it was gonna take too much time, so that's why I was asked to help out, right?
Yeah.
By Aaron, because it would have been over a year to wait almost.
Yeah.
The guy was way too long, so I had to go in and But like I said, good
How
thing
many
that
pages was
Aaron's a
Cybershock?
friend and I was helping a friend.
Yeah.
20,
But how many
22,
pages?
I think it was 22, 24 pages.
24.
28 pages. 28 pages.
28 pages. Holy shit. A
You
year.
go check. It
Well, I mean,
was 25. There you go.
life is rough, dude. So who knows?
Yeah, but especially that this is pretty goddamn quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, another thing I did here. I want to show this though. Hold on. Isn't that one? So he put some freaking pictures in the background, so just to cover what we're talking about too.
Mm.
And how I dealt with it, because dude, it looked like shit at first.
Let's see. There we go.
This is what I mean. So you see in the back, that's a fucking photo. That's put there, and it clashing. And I tried to freaking just go color it, but it made it worse. Like, it just made the picture pop. Like, you see somebody there working. You know, it just made it worse. To break, you could say the uncanny valley type of effect, right? So I pulled something with that one.
That would be totally an overlay. Yeah.
Instead of coloring it, I put it in a bit of an overlay, and I put it in a dark gray to kind of take off the details on it. And
Yeah.
I just think it works better.
That obscures that person in the background.
And the focus is on them now.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of made it, like you see, like you almost don't notice it that it's as much of that is it's a brick. You just don't pay attention. You just want to see. You're just seeing them.
Yeah.
But then you see there's a fence there. They're ramming towards a fence, and then they go through a fucking window. There's nothing I can do to fix that with colors.
Right.
That's one of the only big things that was there. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes those photographs with heavy grayscale, they require you got to really you basically you're outlining the entire both characters in that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to separate them. Interesting. Okay. So Cap, regarding backgrounds and textures, what is your approach? What do you usually do for those?
Textures, I tend to make them by hand. You could make all the brushes and do all the fancy stuff in Clip Studio or in Photoshop all you want. But depending on what I know I need, I get myself a nice big thick stock piece of card, maybe 300 chisms, watercolors, whatever, anything that I can add to that depending on what the texture is as well. So things like salt and sand you can stick in, and I just splash color and texture all over a piece of card and let it dry and scan it in, and then just use it either as an overlay or an underlay sometimes, and just fuck around with the opacity until I get to where I want it to be.
So you physically make hard media and then take a picture essentially of it.
I'll scan it,
put it in. But I mean, essentially create a photograph or an image of it, of something physical, and then use it in your work. Now, so you set it like on a screen layer, multiply layer, or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's interesting. It's so rather than relying on Google and going and finding a picture of something or a texture, a grayscale texture, you're actually just making your own in the world.
Yep. I'll go and find the reference that I need. Of course, it's like Google's the first place you go and have a look if you want to go and find something. And unless you don't like Google, which most people don't, but you still fucking use it though.
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah. Oh no. Yes. I'm actually there is that, and there's Brave, and there's all sorts of things now as well. But yes, the first place I go is the internet. Go and find out roughly what I'm wanting, and then figure out a way of making it. And it only takes. I mean, it doesn't take. You have to let things dry, and I tend to use watercolors more than anything else because they dry nice and quickly.
Right.
And it doesn't take long to make stuff. It's 10 minutes to make it. Go away, have a wank, a shit, cup of tea, biscuit. Come back, it's dry. Off you go.
Bogdan says, I take photos when I'm outside of different things that I can use as texture.
Yep, me too.
So that's great. That's good.
idea.
Yeah, I think the common theme that we're seeing here is use your own shit as much as you can.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's part of the artistry of it, right?
And colorists, I mean, there's a lot of people that claim to be colorists, but you develop your own style as a colorist, and all those things you add to what you're doing, it kind of makes your style as a colorist. So you'll be able to tell the difference. Like when I color something or Spartan color something, right away, if you've seen our work, you know which one of us colored it. You won't confuse it. So
if you just photo drop behind like whatever coloring of a character, you're doing the same thing as if you're doing a full rendered 3D background and you're drawing a character over it. You're creating that little uncanny valley or breaking the suspension of disbelief. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, definitely, if you assemble items in the world and do you make an art piece and then you use it as your own flair or flavor, there's a technique behind that as well. But I think the most important thing is don't take other people's work. Don't take other people's things and use it as your own. And I mean, I know that the people say, well, fair use, it's transformative, I'm using it as this or that. I don't know. I think there's not really a lot of gray area out there. And Passion for Drawing says, I went out and built a full-scale fantasy barbarian town for all the backgrounds for Doom Fate. You fucking madman.
Sounds a bit gay.
Welcome, Michael Beacon.
GH gay, not the other gay.
Small G.
Small G. Small gay.
Small G, yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was supposed to be a doghouse for Jake, and he ended up building the entire city. It's crazy.
That's what it is, yep.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
There's one there.
Ah. Okay.
Course, depending if you with watercolor, depending on how much water you use, you can actually get. You can see that there. You can actually get physical texture in there anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I do that same thing, and I'll use any kind of paint, chalk, anything, just to get like really great textures into Photoshop.
One of my friends, what I used to do would be like put your watercolors, then you put the grains of big grains of salt on it, and you let it on it, and it'll do its own texture and a little effect on it.
Yep.
Oh, with watercolor.
Yeah, with watercolors, you put salt on it, you let it dry, and it'll do that. When it dries off, you just wipe off the salt, and it'll have a nice little like. I don't know how to say it.
Crystalline. Yeah. Because it sucks the water out of the pigment out, so it looks really cool.
And it gives a nice background when you're painting over it, and like texture. It's really cool.
See, that's great because right now we're in this spot where so many people work purely digital, and seeing you guys bring in some traditional stuff and combine it with your digital work is awesome. It's refreshing. You know what I mean? We got some new people in the chat showing up. We got Chaotic Neutral Comics. What's up, Woody? How you doing, brother?
What's up?
Skits Comic is here. And,
what's up, Skits?
Passion is here as well. He's making his presence known as always.
Yeah, but you don't invite him. That's what he says.
I don't invite him. Well, I mean,
that's what he says.
I don't know why he would say that.
Gay.
I mean, maybe. Let's see if I see Passion out there in the Twitterverse.
Oh, Skits might be gay. Skits doesn't do any straight digital. So only gay digital.
Gay digital.
Sorry, Scotsman.
It's you know what I'm saying? Like I think you made a good point there.
See, so I'm saying that's what he keeps saying. I never get the link. I'm like, well, do you ask for it?
Well, it's about to get really raucous in here. I mean, I got Carla on here once, and now we're going to Passion for Drawing. I mean, it's really fallen off, I think.
Aww.
Dude, the rivalry is real.
It's a love-hate relationship. There it is. There, you fucking gruff old man. There's a link for
you. Get in here.
Check your Twitter, your twatter dumbs. Anyway. So ink spots.
Yep.
Backgrounds. Textures.
Mm-hmm.
Texturing, I don't know, foreground materials, foreground things, background things. What do you do for that? What's
I'm going to be long and
this
drawn
fucking guy.
out
Hold
and
on a
technical.
second. This fucking guy. Sorry, I'm too busy. Thank you for the link, but fuck you. This guy. Anyway, go ahead, ink spots. Let's see.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, we're going to start. You know how I like to paint balls, so we're going to start with that.
Paint balls. So you're racist.
The only reason you have texture is because the surface is rough. So you got to think of get a darker color. You always want to think of something in 3D. So this is the form. So if you have an uneven surface, you'll have things along the surface sticking up. The light hits these objects that are sticking up. These are quite bigger, but texture is just a smaller version of this. So the only reason you have texture is because light comes down, hits these, and creates shadow. And that's why you see any kind of texture at all. So the good rule with texture is you have your terminator. So say you have a terminator here, which is the point where light can no longer pass by it. A lot of times your texture is going to show up strongest right near the terminator. Because that's kind of where the light...
for color classes, guy?
Because...
Free today on Colorist Gavin Collab.
No, but damn.
That's
dude,
where...
I did get some comment going like, I love listening to that show because of Scotsman, but Ink Spot, like... goes in like he's giving you like an actual color course in university. I'm going, I know. You just listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find ink spots on Skillshare.
So with texture, you're not going to see a lot of it past the terminator point. You might catch little glimpses of it that kind of, if little pieces of the textures, like if the texture is large enough, it might like pop out along the terminator a little bit into the shadow area where the light, this glancing light kind of hits it. Also, you're not going to see a lot of shadow right on the lightest part because a lot of time the light blows out the texture and you're not going to see the shadow because the light is filling in the shadow. So a lot of times you're going to see the most texture right here, right along the edge of the terminator. This is where you're going to see your brightest colors, which is going to be the actual color of the object, and also you're going to see all the texture right in this area here, right before the terminator. So is your local color going to be the most defined there, the least affected by the spot? You're going to see that's because a lot of times with shadow and light, the light's yellow, the shadow's blue. And the only place you're going to actually see the original color of the object is going to be in that little strip right there by the terminator. Especially if something is round. And that little strip right there is going to tell your eye, and it's going to interact with your brain. And that's going to say, even though the light is really, say the light's really yellow and the shadow is really blue, that little strip in the middle is telling your brain, no, that object is still red, or that object is still yellow. You know, it's not the color of the shadow or the color of the light. So your brain kind of picks that middle section up. That's where you're going to see the most texture and where you're going to see the base color of the object. So I've done oh, go ahead.
That's why I know ink has a little man strip down there.
Welcome to the stream, Passion for Drawing.
Oh, welcome. It's nice to be. I made some time in my busy schedule to.
Oh, thank God.
Listen, you can do hand jobs at 7-Eleven any day of the week.
Well,
So
yeah.
you can't always be on a coloring stream. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you're painting, one way I like to get texture into my colors. I don't like just flat airbrushy look. So a lot of times what I'll do is use a textured brush. So I have this brush here called Jason's Nice Brush, and you can get these brushes for free off a website called Sam's Tasty Art. Just look it up on Google. Sam Nielsen is a concept artist, and he has a whole set of brushes you can download for free. And so you can see that this brush has a texture already in it. So I used this brush to paint this ball, and I didn't do anything special. I painted the light, I painted the shadow, I painted the bounce light, and all I did was use that brush. And when the texture is kind of built into a brush, it will automatically give you that look. And so this kind of looks like stone, or maybe if you would paint a statue or the ground. And so the texture is already built into the brush. So that will help you a lot of times, especially if you take the same brush like I did and I make a eraser out of it so that I can come back in and erase out texture. Can you see that?
Now does that stamp repeatedly so it doesn't leave streaks? So it's a tap and jitter kind of a thing?
Yeah, I mean, this brush, the way it's created, it just
Okay.
the darker, the harder you press, or the more times you go over it, the denser the color gets, and that's how you can light. You don't see as much texture because and all you got to do is just put more pressure down until the texture disappears.
Gotcha.
So it's just set to opacity, and that's what's going to do it for you. And then the more times you go over, the opacity gets darker and darker. So. Okay, so even with an airbrush, you can get a sense of a texture. If you look at this ball, it almost looks like it has like a fuzz on it, or like it has like it's a silk, made out of silk. And this was painted all with an airbrush with no texture. But the trick is, you see the outline of light around the outside? That little outline of light makes it look like there's a slight like fuzzy texture to it. And so you can paint with an airbrush, and an airbrush is appropriate depending on the type of material. So you just have to look at reference and know how that material looks. So like I know that like fuzz, like peach fuzz, or like silk, this is the texture that I would paint for that. Or even like a latex, you put a little more texture in it, and you could get like a latex texture. So it's not only the texture you're using in your brush, but also observing life to see how light interacts with certain textures. So that's why I have a huge section of brushes, and they have different textures built into them. And I would say that that's probably my main workhorse is, brushes with texture built directly into them. So now I'll do a quick demo, and we'll try to do some kind of texture here, if that's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do, so I like to start it with a multiply. I'll go with a deep red color, and I'll just paint this ball completely red. It's on multiply, so then I take my eraser, and I think I'm going to go with like a smooth, so that I can show you guys, even with an airbrush, you can add texture, different kinds of textures. So I got a round airbrush and a smooth eraser. So let's just get the general lighting on this object. There's my lights coming from the upper corner there. And then let's just reduce kind of the... Okay, so now we got light coming down. I'm going to do another layer. I'm going to go ahead and use an overlay. I'm going to say that light is yellow. And that light's coming down and just hitting this object. I always make sounds when I'm coloring. I don't. And so, now when the highlight's going to be a little off center from like, so say your light is hitting here,
Mm-hmm.
If there's a reflection, it's not going to be right on the edge. It's going to be boosted over just a little bit. So like the highlight would be like right there. That's just the way light works. So let's get rid of. So I'm just making the base of the object. So if you were coloring a comic, this would just be like adding your flats and the general lighting to the image.
So basic rendering's done.
I would add the texture later. It's a lot easier to do texture in a separate layer. Now I'm going to do like a blue light, maybe coming from the opposite direction. And then maybe just erase out a little bit here. So right,
quite so strong.
Yeah. So right there is where you have the base color of your object is right along the Terminator right there.
So that would be the local color of the actual object right there.
Yeah, that's the local color. That's the closest you're going to get to the local color. And I might reduce the opacity of that shadow layer just a little bit. Okay. Now, what I do, let's try to do like a... let me get rid of this. Let's try to do like a peach fuzz texture, something like that.
Skit says, to heck with all those layers. One layer's all you need.
Whatever. Let's see how this brush kind of looks. Multiply. Okay, so I guess that'll work. Let's get some darker. So I'm just kind of spattering on here.
Spattering on
That's what the kids call it these days.
Is that you tapping on your screen?
Yeah.
Oh, that poor screen.
I just want to get these little spatters on here.
Yeah.
So
are there cracks in your screen anywhere?
Yeah, you don't need
that. Just in my ass.
You don't need to read it like it's a redheaded stepchild. You just need to.
Yeah.
And so now we know the light. That light comes down and hits there. So I'm going to lock the opacity on that layer now that I have the base down. And so now I'm going to get a light color. And I'm just going to get my airbrush back. And I'm going to come so now it's just affecting that texture. Mm-hmm. So remember the texture washes out towards where the light comes in. And it's going to show up more down here. So now I'm going to erase where it comes past the Terminator. The Terminator. And this is quite working out like I wanted it to. You freaking bastard. Yeah, nothing wants to work when you're actually doing it. I'm going to do a new layer. So that's kind of how I would texture something. Seeing kind of, you get the highlight kind of coming in. It's like a glancing light. So it'd be like it's just glancing the top of that texture as it comes down. Probably want it to show up down here a bit more. Come on. And so you just kind of get the little bit of you can see the little texture on there. So that's kind of how light works. It's just however the angle of the light is glancing that texture. That's the only part of the texture you're going to see, and then the deep crevices in there are going to be a little darker. So you could even like take a selection of your texture. So like if I hold Control, I'm selecting that texture, and then Control Shift I to reverse the selection, and then maybe get a little bit of a darker color.
Oh, and increase its onion peeling kind of a feel.
Yeah,
so onion, you can orange peeling.
Yeah, so you can basically you're just you're doing ambient occlusion in the crevices there. Yeah. So.
And you can do that for skin too, make the skin look porous.
Yeah, you can do pores on a nose like that. You can do all kinds of things. So, and then things that are fuzzy always have like an outside. Let me get that brush back. If I can fucking find it. Fluffy for. So things that are a little bit fuzzy are going to have this weird, like. I know.
What are you doing in there, Ink Spots? Nothing. I'm just stippling.
Just flogging my ball.
But things that are a little bit, it's not the same texture, but anyway, things that are a little bit furry are going to have like a little light outline on them, and that's where all the little hairs are kind of sticking out from the object and they're catching light. So you have like a slight little lightness around the outside of the object.
Almost
and
like
that'll
peach fuzz.
Yeah, that'll help you, help you sell the texture. And then you can just like, if you really wanted to make this like look like hair, we were talking about hair last week. Hair is just a really long texture. That's all it is. And so hair would be kind of like the same on the edges, but it would stick out a lot more. And so like in this area, you're going to see the hair kind of sticking up, but all around the object, you're going to see like little, like sticking out anywhere that it's the sun can catch it, even on the shadow side. And of course, you would make this side a little bit darker,
If you've ever seen somebody who's gotten hair plugs.
Yeah. Of course, you have to work it, But hair is just a long texture, so it's kind of the same, the same thing.
And if you're a big brother out there and you've got a little sister and you've ever given one of your little sister's dolls a haircut, you see those tufting.
Yeah.
They don't like it very much.
Nope.
So you can kind of see how, it kind of starts to take on the appearance that it has hair on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So we got that way of texturing. Another way of texturing is to actually texture with an image or a pattern that you made yourself. So let's try that. I have open. Let's see if I can find some.
Did you show how to use the Alt click to lock a texture down to the other layer below or above?
Yeah, you just press Alt and hover your cursor in between the two layers, and then click, and that'll make an automatic clipping mask.
Yep, and you can control and really have it like the effect that you want. That's one of the things that I use. I forgot to mention before. Like you can make your own like airbrush like thing, and I use that to do like freckles or stuff. The skin texture. So you put it in, and you could really choose which one of the layers you want, and it kind of works better, and it's locked down, and then you can mix it up.
Okay. I'm trying to find. Sorry, guys. So these are some textures that I made that I just like scans of like what Captain Fuckhead was talking about. So I just painted some gesso over some paper to let the paper texture come out. So let's just get this. No, come on. Okay, so there's a couple. There's so many ways to do this. I'll show you just a couple ways. So I like to color pick and see where it's at on my darkness here. If you can see up in the corner, I have my hue, saturation, and brightness sliders up. So when I color pick this right now, the darkest areas are right around 69 and 67. I want to get those down to right about, you want to get the darks down to right about 50%. And the reason why is the overlay layer at around 50% is going to show more of the colors that you already put down through at the colors that you want them to be. And so let me show you. I'll put this to overlay right now. See how much it changes the color of your object? It makes it way brighter because the texture is too bright. So put this back to normal. And then image adjustments, hue and saturation. And then I bring the darkness down. I'll bring it. Then I'll color sample it again. And it's closer, okay? So now if I hit overlay, the color is actually closer to what I put down. So I would go ahead and lock that down to that layer. And you're going to follow the same rules. Now that you're using a texture, the same rules apply. So in the light area, this texture is going to be kind of washed out. So I'm going to erase that. I'm not going to see a lot of the texture in the shadow area. So I'm going to get rid of that.
So destructive.
Well, you can use a mask. And so, okay, now I have a texture on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm not done. You're not done once you use a photo texture or anything. Now you go back in with your brushes and you paint the peaks and valleys, you know. So I'm going to grab a light color. I may make it a little lighter. Come in. And I'm just going to start painting areas where the light's hitting a little more. And then I'm going to grab the shadow color and I'm going to come in and try to put little areas where the divots and stuff are, where the light's not getting. You're painting the ambient occlusion. Maybe get your blender even. Maybe, let's get it dark. Maybe there's a crack in here or something. So the light's going to hit the one side of the crack. Maybe erase it out a little bit. Blend it in a little more. So this is how you should be using photo textures. You're going to use it, and then you're going to go in, and you're going to spend a little bit of time, and you're going to put your own personal touch on it.
Looks like an elbow with psoriasis on it.
Yeah, looks like my scrotum.
That's brilliant. No, that's great. It's so realistic.
I thought this was a life drawing class for a moment.
It's brilliant. No, I love it. I love it.
So you're adding a little extra to your image. And that's the way I would overlay and then try to get that texture as close to 50% brightness as you can. That way, when you use the overlay mode, it's not going to destroy all the color work you did underneath of it. It's just going to slightly change it and just put that texture on there.
Mhm.
Just the darkest areas are really what's going to show up that makes the divots and stuff. And so you can see when you zoom out, you can kind of see that texture on there. So now that texture maybe looks like an egg or something. So, yeah, same thing. And like I maybe like I got the like on this one up here. This is a little dark, where I use the textured brush, and I would do the same thing with that. After I use a textured brush, I would go back in there. Let me find which one it is. There it is. I would go back in there and I would start adjusting things, to make it look better. So I do the same thing. Even on the bounce light side, I would start picking out little texture, pieces of texture or whatever. And then on the light side, maybe I'm seeing a little more divots there. Maybe this is too dark. Add some more. Maybe there's a different light coming from the other way or something.
Oh, third light source?
Yeah, anything. It don't matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like to play around, man.
Yeah, I hear you.
And so, yeah, and then I would just get in there and start and remember that light is additive. So the brightest light's going to overpower. Like if the green light was shining here, you wouldn't see it because, the yellow light is stronger. So
that's why you don't see a flashlight shined at the ground out in the sun.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you do, be careful because it's nuclear powered.
Yeah, something's going on.
Don't shine it on your toes. You're going to melt them off.
So. But yeah, this is why it takes me a million years to color a page. So, but this is the kind of stuff you do. You just start, working on your textures and adding, like I said, you're adding your own kind of style to the image. When someone sees something you color, they're going to know that you're the one that colored it because of the extra time you've taken to add little details and stuff to it. So anyway, yeah, that's how I would do it.
Nice.
So that's how I add an image. I either use an image like that. Usually, sometimes I'll use a picture of a rock or something, but I turn the opacity way down and then I go over it to where you would never know I used a photo in there. And by the end, most of it is my work anyway. It's just like a starting point. It's not like...
How do you blend all that out? I mean, putting Dwayne Johnson in there and not having people recognize it. That's a lot of blending.
Yep.
There's some strange Samoan muscular man in my picture.
That's a lot of layers.
That's a lot of layers.
Just you multiply. You'll be fine.
You won't be laughing in 4 years' time when you say there's a big giant muscular man in my White House.
Could be, right? Well, that's great, man.
Anyway, that's all I got. Unless anyone has any questions or anything.
Are those balls actual size?
No, my balls are much bigger. My penis is much smaller.
I was about to say, shouldn't they be like brass colored or steel?
Well, I mean, you got to give your penis something nice to sit on. You know what I mean? A nice pillowed bag. Yeah. Well, interesting. Okay, so you've used clipping masks, you've used textured brushes, you've allowed it to interact with the various light sources, but yet the thing that I've seen the most, I think, is the subtlety in your textures. You're not allowing your textures to dominate the form. They're more of a flavor rather than a main character in and of themselves, right?
Exactly. They're just adding that extra step. It's like when you're painting a face, you're adding some stubble, you're adding some pores, you're adding blemishes. It's it's the extra. You got the main work done. Now you need to take that extra, put that extra 20% in to make it shine. Add extras to it, and that's going to make you stand out from all other colorists out there. because
it's most apparent. It's most apparent in the terminating line and in the spotlight where you have zero texture, and where now you have this band where you're revealing it in the transition between where the local color is still unchanged.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that's where it shows up the most.
That's great. That's great. Well, now that we're all going to feel thoroughly deficient going forward. No, that's excellent. So that's more of a digital painterly approach. It's very, I guess you could say, very developed, right? It's not just like slap something in there and just go.
It's a mix of digital painting and actual painting.
Yeah. No, but that's a mastery that sequential art doesn't typically have in it because of deadlines and shit like that. So if you have the time to do that kind of stuff, man, it can really make your work stand out.
Looks awesome on covers now.
See, look what Sam's doing. What kind of text you use on my cover, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Michael Beacon,
right.
when you approach, like for Seven Legions, your backgrounds and your texturing, what kind of things do you do?
I like to really experiment with my brushes, like just sort of like depending on the object. Like I found some pretty decent brushes for grasses and trees, and I even got a wood grain texture. I'll show off one of the examples real quick.
Sure. Okay, here we go. Yep.
So this picture here, it's you got a wide variety of brushes being used. So like night sky, I've got a Starfield sort of brush and a splatter brush. Just sort of mix those.
You just
together.
put Beacon in a very small box.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, can you try and play with your wire, Beacon? You're coming out like you're in a can, like you're away from your mic. Like it goes like if you're going, close, then away, then close, then away from your mic.
It's like a Beastie Boys song.
Yeah.
What you?
Yeah, am I coming in clear now, or?
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So so I got this Starry Night sort of brush thing. It's like a sprinkles white light there.
Now you're
there
back.
you go. Stop moving.
I'm not moving. I guess the microphone on my computer just sucks.
Yeah, maybe it's dying.
Yeah.
No, you're okay. Go.
Okay. And I got a splatter brush and did a little bit of airbrush sort of gradient, sort of expanding like a glow from the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the trees, which I got a leaf brush there. I just do I take the color I used for the flat, go darken it, do like the underside, lighten it, do the upper side, and then go in with the light color to sort of fill that. I sort of do the light effect. And for the grass, I got a grass brush.
Bye.
Bye.
Sounded perfect up until that last point.
You just got in. Yeah, we lost him in space.
So the grass.
Okay.
I feel like we're like underwater.
Yeah.
You're in a diving helmet.
Yeah.
All right.
Tell my wife and child I love them.
Okay. So then like wood, I got a wood texture brush and it's like supposed to be used for hair, and I use that for like hay or something like that. So I'll go over to Krita and show some examples. Here's the grass brush. One of the things I do with it is I'll sort of vary the size of the brush. Yeah, there it is. Depending on like how distant the grass is. Like I start up with a larger size up front, like about maybe 500 pixels. Hit it with that, then shrink it down for like mid range, shrink it down for off in the distance, and then use this hairbrush here, and to sort of
for some tufts here and there. Mm-hmm.
It's the leaf brush example.
You're far away again, brother.
So there he
Ground
goes again
control.
on his own.
Ground control to Major Beacon.
Here,
Houston, we have a problem.
Sounds like he's stuck in a fat girl's butt. I've been there before, brother.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah. So sort of fill out an area with this. Go in darker.
I like that brush. That brush is nice.
Yeah, I think I have that one too. It's pretty cool.
And then
Now, is that brush set to multiply, or is there an effect added to it? Or is it just a low opacity and blend?
low opacity.
Okay.
Or like higher opacity if I really push down on it.
Okay, so it's pressure sensitive opacity. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like it randomly rotates too as you use it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. So the brush dynamics are allowing the randomness of actual leaves.
I use these types of brushes as well. So yeah, they'll let you knock out trees and all kinds of stuff real fast.
Oh yeah, I love them. And like for a dirt path sort of thing. Same basic concept. Shrink the brush to go for more distant. And just once over with the mid-tone, do a darker color pass.
Mm-hmm.
Creates a contrast, a good bit of contrast. And then let's see. Oh, yeah, I was preparing a rock. And, the wood grain texture. And I just sweep across it with like this. And you can.
Yeah, it's like a rake brush.
Yeah. Mm. It's one of the more difficult brushes to use if you want to do any sort of
Yeah.
It's like one of those sci-fi messages, you're hearing
from the radio from back in time. You got yourself that old AM radio from 1937.
Yeah.
John Connor.
We're getting coloring tutorial from the past.
So anyway, here's how I do my rock texture.
See, it fucking works. Inflatable waving hands.
So maybe if you want to go in and do a bit of a raw iron deposit, do a little bit of rust. You want to do that as the first layer because otherwise it'll impact the colors on top. Going with this sort of cloudy sort of brush, I use it for clouds and instead of airbrushing.
Is it just me, or does anyone else want to hear Mickey Mouse do one of these shows now?
I'm glad you said so.
Bend over, Minnie. It's time to get goofy.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Just when backgrounds are a really good place to really experiment with new brushes.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how some texture can really bring something to life. So.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you'll notice that he didn't just find a photo, cut a rock out, paste the rock in there.
Yeah.
Lower the opacity, put a color layer over it, and be like, "That looks fucking great."
Oh, don't forget the line filter.
Yeah. Yeah, about the only thing I'd ever do that on is like just like a small moon or something, because it's really difficult to recreate the moon for me, at least. But yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that's basically it.
So you use a series of brushes that have random stamps in them, so that you could create random leaves, and then you're using your knowledge of light and shadow, kind of where the light is going to be reacting to each parts of the form, to whether you're going to use lighter value, darker value, and then you build up your values from there, kind of stack them on top of each other. I like it. Very nice. Mr. Passion.
Yes, sir.
So do you have an example of some texturing you've done in Doomfate, maybe?
Yes, I have several. All these things these guys have said are correct, of course. I'm sharing my screen.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
What I have done textured stuff in the past using, basically like with this guy. This is kind of like what Ink was talking about. Mm-hmm. How you're using different values and the equator and all that stuff we talked about. So this is like art stuff. So through the years, I've kind of done stuff like this where I've tried to simplify my textures.
That's awesome, dude.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you. I try not to. This was done a few years ago. I tried to use the minimum amount of brushes that I can, because digital is a very strong tool. But I'm old school that way. I went to art school like 25 years ago. So we didn't have
character's name. If it's not Rook, I'm going to be surprised and sad.
That's a great name, actually. It's a tower giant. So
his name's Bob.
No, but he's like a chess piece. Like he's got a rook hammer and a rook on his back.
That's a neat idea.
Anyway,
very cool.
But I tended to, I used all the brushes, and I still do. They have their place.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend to now go with more of a simplified texture, how I want to do things. So I try to make textures with the simplest brushes I can, because that's what the people like Monet and Van Gogh did. All they had was a brush and some paint, and they had to create texture and depth and everything just with that. They had nothing else. Mm-hmm. So I find that interesting to see what you could do. So for this picture, for example, all it is a block brush. That's all I use at different opacities for the flame in the back, and just change the color. That's all I did. And then for the little embers and stuff, that is a brush that I use. It's called rubble. It's basically little pieces of rock you can use. And I just changed the color. So I put the lighter color in the black and the darker color in the white. And that created the texture of the fire and the embers and everything else. And there's a little airbrush in here. There's a little bit of, blocky outlines and things like that I used. I try to use, and when I do kind of lots of texture together, I try to add a whole bunch of different things, like a little bit of what Ink does, a little bit of what Mike does, a little bit, I'll even make my own textures from time to time, scan them in. I try to do everything,
right?
Depending on the picture. But lately for Doomfate, seeing as it is, it is a comic book, I've moved more towards kind of a cell-shaded hybrid kind of deal. I want it to look like an animated movie. So like with this page, for example, the backgrounds are completely digitally done, but I did them very simply. They're very simply done. The rocks in the back are all done with just a block brush, wipe it in. The clouds, the dark clouds, the snowy clouds are just a dense airbrush I used. But
now, are your backgrounds added in after the fact, after you do the line art and color the figures?
Yes, usually.
Okay.
So like it depends on the page. Like there's certain pages where I drew all the backgrounds in, and there's certain ones I added in later.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to do with Doom Fate is try to come up with more textures using the least amount of brushes. So like in this page, for example, you see all the texture of the blood. Now it's not a brush, okay, that I used to make all that blood. I actually went in and drew it and then did layer after layer of just cuts. Using.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Sure.
I want to see that close.
So all
Very
this is
cool. Yeah.
All this is several. This is all different. Just me using different brushes, base brushes, on it, just to get this different textures and different lines and everything. So you can use texture without using a whole lot of brushes, just by using color.
Exactly.
And form.
I usually switch between like regular brush or sometimes the herb brush for those effects. Or
Dude, that looks so gooey.
Do you use that highlight? Do you use that highlight thing in your tool? In the herb brush?
In this page, not really, but you can create all these textures without really, like, there's some other brushes. I just mixed all kinds of brushes, just went stupid with it. But a lot of it's like I went in here with an ink brush and just started drawing on it, so, to give it more texture and different colors. Same thing with the snow too. I use a lot in my work now is the this is in Clip Studio Paint. It's the
Is that a camel toe brush that you use?
Camel toe.
Nice.
I use the lasso fill tool a lot, and this could really get cuts in, like here you can make like her hair and stuff like that, and the leather, and you can create texture by using all this snow in here with all the little dots and stuff. That's all done with the lasso fill tool. So you can go in and create your own textures and everything on the page, something like this. And then for the snow, I literally I went in here, and this is not a brush, actually. It's me using the lasso fill tool just in random spots.
That's a great page, dude.
Thank you.
Man, she is covered in blood, dude. I love
Look at that neck. That's great.
Yeah, that's how she started out, actually. I drew this picture of her, like she's actually lifting this big... I came with the character, she's lifting this big severed head of a giant. And she came off of that picture. So I had to kind of put a homage to that. But in the background here, I kind of... If you see the little snowy cliffs back here, I kind of cut those in with the lasso fill tool, and then I went over it with a layer of white and lowered the opacity on it, so that it would look like it's cell shaded, like it's in the background.
Yeah.
I do that several times in the book. Same thing over here, up here. Up here back where these guys are, it's kind of simple colors, but they're in the background so you can really see. You can do that too by putting another layer over and just putting different filters or gradients over it and messing with the opacity. You can create different gradients over what you just did. So like if you took something like what ink did and you put some different layering over it, you can totally change the texture to what you want. Hair and stuff like that, for example, I like to go in, and there's nothing wrong with using a brush or whatever.
Just before you say about hair, gentlemen, I'm going to have to duck out. I need to go and get some grub and sort myself out, because the CG UK show has moved from Wednesdays to Sundays. Today is Sunday, so I need to go and get my shit together.
We normally would be at an hour, but Passion demanded we give him a platform. So
look, it's all good. I just need to get myself some food and
fair enough, Cap.
Prepare me body for beer. Basically,
are you going to be eating some haggis?
No, probably not. I'm probably going to stick to pizza tonight. I was thinking about making a chicken korma, but I can't be arsed.
Fair enough. For those of you who don't know, Cap is a legit chef, by the way.
Is he really?
I was years ago.
Nice. You should do a cooking show, bro.
I'd watch that.
I would watch it.
That's how I got through university and made money while I was there.
You can call it cooking with a fuckhead.
Oh, fuck cooking, mate. It's a pain in the arse, honestly. It's a hell of a lot of effort. I mean, it's worth it, but like there's no point. I couldn't do anything like that because I can't cook for one. That's one thing that you learn as a chef. You never ever cook for one. So when I cook fucking huge batches of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I can't be asked tonight. That's why I'm going to have pizza because I've already made the dough.
Well, good luck preparing your alcohol system to replenish it with some where the blood is supposed to be.
The only way.
Mm-hmm.
The only way. Gentlemen, I will see you next week.
Thank you, Cap. There he goes, Captain Fuckhead. My flatter, as well as an excellent artist. Check him out on Twitter, Captain Fuckhead. Sorry, go ahead, Passion.
Lastly, just like with this picture, like you could see where I did a bunch of, texture and stuff around the face and everything like that to give it some depth. But you can also go in with different layers and go over those things if you simply put down a simple layer of texture and then come in with simple techniques such as, like this dude's on fire. So you can come in with an add glow layer and just simply go over it with a light airbrush. And that starts to change the texture ever so subtly. What's great is you can back it off if it's too much or anything like that. And you can come in with different colors, and just make the textures start to make a different look to it as you're adding colors. So don't forget color and form can easily be used as a texture instead of actually using actual textures. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Texture brushes are great. So is creating your own textures. Those are all important things too. But
can you zoom in on the face so we can see some of your strokes?
Sure. Sure. I'm about to have a stroke. But this is all just broken up. This is one of the test colors I did for going into Doom Fate, like how I wanted to do it.
Gotcha.
So I just went in with the lasso fill tool and just kind of used it almost like a paintbrush, and just went in block colors and textures and stuff like that, and using the inks too as a texture. There's no reason why the inks can't be used as a texture either. So that's what I like doing for Doom Fate. Now, if I was doing someone else's work, it would be more in a traditional sense, of course. Something like, this is all digitally painted, so from scratch. So I use different colors and different brushes. I was experimenting. It's mostly dry brushes. Use some texture on his helmet.
Now, did you do a paint over from an initial sketch, or did you just go paint?
Yeah, this is I did a real rough sketch, and then I painted almost from the ground up. And then, so like the cover for Doom Fate, for example, what I used all those same ideas all in one. I tried to give texture by using a gradient in the back to give texture to the orcs, from the red to the greens to the blues. And then use their eyes, brighten them up to make their eyes pop out more. And then just the blood too. If I would have done this a little bit more, I probably would have put more texture on the blood.
Yeah, I really like the way you did the eyes, because it gives her a sense of being actually surrounded.
Yeah.
Gives her a little bit of tension there, a little bit of danger.
Yeah, the idea of the picture was she's spinning around. She's kind of doing her about face. Like, I just kill all these people. So, that's just how I go about doing it. I've experimented and done things. I'm by no means an expert in digital painting and all that. That's Ink's area. But what works for me, I feel comfortable in doing, is that kind of stuff. And my art has kind of form factored to that.
You kind of draw with how you're going to color it in mind.
Yeah, when I'm doing my own stuff, yes. But when I'm drawing for other people, it's like, okay, I'm trying to keep the colorist on down the line in mind, because I know they're not going to color the way I do, because mine's kind of unique. It's kind of different.
Yeah.
I don't do what everybody else does. They all do it the right way. I do it the wrong way. But
plus, you kind of tailor what you're doing for speed and efficiency too. You want to get it done eventually.
Yeah, that's part of it too. But I
plus
also,
when you're drawing, inking, writing, lettering, coloring all yourself, that's a long fucking process. That's 5 people's jobs done by one person. So you got to find ways to recoup a little bit of time here and there through technique.
Yeah, like the next Doomfate book, I am not coloring it. It's taken me the longest part of it. Like it's taken me longer than writing, drawing it, and inking it.
Hear that, boys?
Coloring takes a long time. I think. Well, depending on what level you are, if you're doing just like you're pasting in stuff and you're doing gradients and lens flares all day, that's probably you're gonna be really quick. You can tell those artists, but all the people here, you guys all bust your ass on your colors, and it takes a little bit more time. And then you got something like in certain situations where the art is not there, and the colorist has to do more work,
right,
to make it up. So I'm kind of doing both. I'm drawing it and coloring it, and getting his.
Optimus Deadpool says coloring takes a long time. In quotes, as a project manager, I feel this statement.
Like this page here. This one I just finished not too long ago, and it's just different gradients. I painted the background in 2 of the panels there.
Oh, let me see that forest, dude. That's great.
Some god rays coming down.
Yeah, some god rays. Let's see. So I of course I drew the forest up here. That's all.
Passion, if I could say one thing, the thing that I love about your work the most is you're not fucking afraid to use line weight. Holy shit.
No, I freaking love the way he draws, and I like his subject matter too, like the sword and sorcery stuff. It's just awesome.
Because dude, the whole point of line art is to convey values. And if you do like so many, I mean, there's a place for Deadline. I mean, obviously there are some really Inkspots has a brilliant kids book that's all Deadline, but he brings it out with his watercoloring with what I mean? He brings it to life that way. I'm an inker by trade. That's my spot in comics. That's where I came through, right? I'm background inker, but still I'm traditionally trained in Crowquill, Bristol, India ink. And whenever I see good inks that are conveying not just depth, but value and strength and distance, I love the way good line art looks. And you are not afraid to use line weights, which I really admire. So I'm not trying to lick your asshole or anything. I'm just saying.
No, you can lick it.
You can lick it. It's cool.
People have said that to me, like, oh, the thick lines there, they really like that. It's what I went for and kind of my style in general, but I can do thin weight. I have tons of stuff where it's sitting there, do all kinds of little details and everything. I love doing that stuff too, but doing a whole comic that way is just exhausting. It would take, right. I mean, like Ethan, for example, he's a great inker and he puts so much line and detail and so fine work.
But he doesn't use line weight.
Yeah,
his line weights are dead, and I've given him shit about that in the past, and he just
they're all the same. But he uses
me off like a fly.
But I like thick lines. I like animation kind of style. I like some of it's manga based too. If you look at a lot of manga artists, they use a lot of heavy line weight, man. Heavier than mine.
A little secret: the thicker your character borders and line weights are, the easier it is to lasso and color.
A little bit, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But so that's just the way I go about coloring for my stuff. Of course, other people's stuff, I go more traditional coloring route or a painted route or whatever the customer's looking for. But this is how I approach it for my stuff, and I think it gives it a unique look. This may not be for everybody, but that's what I'm going for. I want my art to jump out like Inks does and Michael Beacon's does and Sims does and your Scott's and Skits and all those people. I'd rather stand out than just be another gradient monkey. I've done that stuff. So
yeah, that's part of being an indie, man. We get to put in the extra time because you're proud of what you're doing and you want other people to dig it. You don't want to be like the mainstream
You
the
know,
mainstream guys.
the difference is
calling
like
it in.
comparing McDonald's to a gourmet restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
Can you share my screen for a sec? I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
show
sure.
one tool.
I'm done.
Let's see, right there.
So see, out of like simple shapes, I just cut in like little darker, like I put in on multiply with the same color, right? This is like the tune shade approach. So you can pretty much like pick the same color. Then I would that would be for my shadows. Then after that, I would put add glow and put it to 50%, so I could do stuff like this. Go in and start drawing, right? This is what I was talking about when I'm like, if you practice this, you can pretty much draw your own textures and backgrounds and stuff like that, right? But the entire principle of what I wanted to show is this. That's why I'm doing this quickly, just to show you. This is how we usually would do in tune shading, right? Quickly notice. But one of the tools that I like that we have in Clip Studio is the airbrush, right? And that's something that it's really good to practice with. That's how I got better in colors, was to learn this. Like it's like playing with your burn tool or your your burn, or highlight burn or something like this. So you have shadow. So if you pick the same color, right? Here I lock my transparency, so I can go in and just go like, and it gives you a value of shadow, right? Of what skin would actually be more like. So you can go in, draw that little eye thing, then you draw the mouth, and you have your little. And the same thing with the blue. If you say, it just burns it a bit, and it blends in.
Using the same color and just multiplying into it.
Yeah, I use that too on skin tones quite a bit.
And then that's the other one that I like to use, and I'll show you how I use it usually. But I'm just showing you the application of it, right? So now you switch to highlight. It's your airbrush. You put the highlight tool, and it'll do the opposite of it. And the more you go over, you can pull those nice little freaking glows without going crazy. Get it? Because you're just
got the linear dodge effect and linear dodge add.
So you can actually play with it. And what I like to do with it is something like this when I'm rendering. I do a mix of both. Like I go with my darker light, and then I would go in and do little highlights with that tool, which gives it that little. It's a little tool that I like a lot. When I say that it's more intuitive when you're playing with the Clip Studio, it's because is that what intuitive?
Intuitive. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry about my pronunciation.
No problem.
You still got the idea.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was in the presence of royalty.
Right?
I'm going to go back second. Hands up.
But this is one of the tools that I like to use also. That's why I was bringing it up earlier with blood, right? So let's say that I go in, create my little splatter of blood with the lasso tool, right? Boom, right? And I'll do like E would, and I'll go in with a lighter, just a little bit of a lighter tone, right? To kind of like highlight it a bit. But the thing is, what I like to do though, it's instead is going in, selecting that thing, picking that highlight tool, and then you go, you don't pick it up, so you can do just one thing like that. What smooth little render, and as soon as you start adding and picking it up, then you can start giving that little extra little highlight to it. Then if you go in and you pick that lighter color, so it's really like
you stay in the same hue range. You're just going up in the value.
Yeah, and then you want to play with it. You go in with your blend tool, but go play with your setting. You can play with the opacity of what it has and everything.
Or you
color
just
stretch. Yeah.
I hear a lot of you just play with it.
And I want to say too, like I use all these same techniques that these guys are showing. But I gotta pick. You gotta pick your battles when I'm a slow colorist, so I have to add that extra stuff to give value for them waiting for me to, because like I said, it takes me about 8 hours to color a page. So if I'm going to spend 8 hours on it, I have to add that little bit of extra flair so that they're getting what they're paying for. Most comic book colors are not going to have the luxury of taking 8 hours on a page. They're going to have to get that shit out the door. So you got to keep that in mind. You got to pick your battles. In some pages, I'm just going to do a similar to cut and grad, and especially if the artist is more detailed, and you don't want to be distracting from their line work, because that's what the book's about, is their line work, their art. So you're just trying to give it a little bit of flair, but you don't want to outshine what they're trying to do on their art.
Maybe that's something I don't know if you guys have covered yet, because I don't watch the show. Basically, maybe
Thanks, man.
Then you wonder why you're not invited. Damn it.
That's right. I've been invited twice, never got a link. Anyway, we could talk about how to approach different artists and what you would want to do, like style wise, versus what a colorist is expected to do, depending on the style. How to what the penciler and inker is doing compared to what we should be doing. Like, you wouldn't go super painted over everything on like a real detailed style.
No, it doesn't work, because I've tried to do my style is basically ingrained in me, and so I can't really work on super detailed styles. My coloring style does not work with that type of artwork. I need a more open, cartoony style, and then I shine in that kind of environment. But yeah, like over Ethan, or even over like someone like Odie, like Scotsman does, my coloring doesn't work with that sort of style. So
well, I like to thread the needle between, like if Odie's the lead plane, I like to form right about here and be his wingman. So that I defeat some of his lines with technique, but I try to make sure that I don't overpower every bit of it. You know what I mean? I want the characters to come forward. So I spend a lot of time separating pieces apart, splitting to a foreground, midground, background. But I definitely don't want to overpower the original line work to the point where it's now something completely different,
Well, that's where you got to know when to back off. A lot of colorists, like, they just do their thing over everybody. I've seen a lot of colorists do that. They'll just do their own style over anybody's artwork, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes a good colorist will actually flex and move around, know when to pull back. Someone like Joe Ball, I mean, I've tried coloring his stuff and you have to pull it back. I know Mike has done a lot of his stuff too. The secret of it is to pull back. Less is more with guys like that. And that's the secret. But some people need that texture, and it brings out the art. And cartoony, like Ink said, cartoony is a great, because it gives you an open field to kind of do texture and have fun with it. Maybe I'll get Ink to do one of my pictures someday.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. For Joe Ball specifically, Gat last year actually asked me to, or is Gat and Steve Dye? I was talking with them about Joe Ball's work on Bullet Maker, and so this is kind of how I handled Joe Ball, where his line work is very. There's a lot of detail. Hold on a sec. I made it into a. So when you look at that initially, it looks like something you would see out of an old timey graphic novel. You know what I mean? Like it's a chapter page in a novel that you're going to be reading for fucking ever, right? And a lot of people are intimidated by this kind of line work, and I just kind of zoom back and squint at it and look at the broad shapes. And once it's flatted, you can disregard a lot of the chaos in his line work. And what I mean by disregard, know that it's there, make sure it stays there, but at the same time, don't let it intimidate you. Know that there are break the page down into its broader shapes. You've got a character in the foreground. You've got a character here, 2 characters in the midground, 1 in the background. They're standing on a cluster of rubble here, and there's an overturned car. There's a broken building, another broken building, a bridge that's cracked, and some mountains. Those elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the rest of the line work, it doesn't matter. Don't let it intimidate you, right? So once you break it out into its forms, into its shapes, after it's flatted, it then becomes a lot less chaotic. You go, okay, I kind of see what I'm dealing with here. So we allow the artist's rendering to really tell the story of the form, and we're just going to accentuate that with color. So as we add in our rendering, the rendering then begins to give life to all the individual pieces. So in the foreground, I went with very cool because there's fire here, there's flames, textured in some just basic flames. And this was more of a colored sketch than actual finalized rendering because I didn't have a lot of time and they really just wanted to see an idea. But adding depth through color holds, that's another thing. Painting the lines of the mountains and this bridge gray, having them fall way into the background, it creates that distant far away feeling, as because as things get farther away, they usually get cooler in value because there's air particles between the lens of the camera being your eye and the actual thing off in the distance. So the distortion makes it cooler and lighter, and then it allows these things to start to come into focus. Now, once you break things into their broader form, don't let the line work intimidate you. Render things according to what they are. Use textures in a smart way. Don't just use a textured brush because you got a textured brush in your brushes palette. Think about what the form is. What is that thing, right? Use a texture that makes that thing look like that thing's supposed to look. You know what I mean? Because you'll see sometimes a lot of colorists who are learning, everything will look glass. Everything will look shiny. Everything will look like it's wet because they use their grads too much. They go way up in value when something isn't reflective, but they add a lot of reflective highlights and a lot of specular highlights on things that would never have a specular highlight. Specular meaning the focus of the key light or the main fill light forming and blowing out all the texture and light, and you end up with a real hot spot where there's very little color. So pay attention. If something is cloth, don't blow out the highlight all the way, because unless it's a leather or something that's a really slick material, typically cloth, it diffuses a lot of light because light goes through the fibers and it doesn't bounce it around. It just absorbs it. So you don't get that kind of a thing. So you got to go ahead.
If you share my screen, got my approach to a Joe Ball piece and someone else like to do it. So this was a piece for Death. I just did.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's Death.
Yeah, I did this for Shiggles just to show them, what I would do. And this is I did more kind of a watercolory brushes I used on it. Mm-hmm. And then I just dove in and tried to highlight some stuff and get in there and just jump in and kind of put the white lines around certain things to kind of make things pop a little bit. Because if you look at this particular panel, there's a lot going on line work wise. So what I wanted to do was kind of jump him out a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, that might not be the right way to go with Joe's stuff. But a lot of other people would go in and just do every single one of these little pieces of, skin and rocks. And I just kept it simple. But then something like Doodle Bags, who has more of a cartoony.
God, I love Doodle's style too. He is not afraid of line weight either.
Yeah, and that's why I liked it. Yeah,
his ladies are so sexy too.
Yeah, he's very good. And this one I colored, so I went more of a softer tones and airbrush a little bit more, and because that's, even though his stuff is cartoony, kind of like mine, his style doesn't fit that kind of coloring. You know what I mean? You want to round, it's softer. You want to round it all. My lines are a little bit harder. And that's just what I felt, to go a little bit softer on it. So it depends on the artist that you're here. Your job as a colorist to enhance the art, in my opinion, to really make it go to the next level. This picture got everybody excited about Doomfade. I mean, it got me almost $1,000.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, when I showed this, it's like everybody jumped on because it's a print. So
my turn to show how to color a Joe Ball.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. All right.
Here it comes.
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
This is going a mix of toon shading and cutting grads. And like you said before, look what I did with the leather. I wanted the leather of her suit to be more matte than the rest. So as you can see, like the yellow is a bit more shiny than here, right? It's a cut and grad, really. Like one's hard edge and one's soft, right? Like you were talking the other day. And I did the same thing here, like, but those are really like hard cuts. If you're looking at it, the jacket is like really hard cut for the shadow, then a little highlight, like I said before, which makes it just pop. Because one of the things that I've realized
like different materials too,
like one of the things that I've noticed is the more you have line, the less details you have to put in color. So you just start with your flats and then you start cutting in shadows and highlights. Because as soon as you start thinking a bit some kind of like too much effects in the color, you're kind of like killing the details. And here's how I would start it, like with the example of what I was working right here. That's why I always start with putting a gray in the back, and I start going in with my heart color, and I start going in with cuts and grads a bit. Like I cut out I take a selection of the entire muscle.
I love that piece right there, man. That's my favorite.
Thanks. But this is how I technically start approaching it, because when I started doing coloring over my art, I was trying to do the type of like matte painting approach, and it was killing the line work. Like everybody was saying, like, when you use too dark tones, you kill the shadow, the lines of the shadow and stuff like that, right? So that's why I kind of toned down my first selection of colors. My shadows are not as dark as I would do in matte painting, like in painting or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch those K values. How much black is in. You don't want to really go 40% is like the low, as dark as you want to get, and then adjust all your other colors around that color. Yeah. Or you're going to get mud.
That's a perfect example here. That here is a bit too dark. I would go there and light it up when I'm going to continue like rendering in it. Because this, look, if you back down, it doesn't look, the lines don't show up anymore. So that's something
because your value is too close to your line work in some places, so you lose definition.
Yeah,
that's cool though, man. Like I like your.
Yeah, I love that sword. How he rendered inside of it with the light on the outside of it. That's pretty cool. That texture you got.
Yeah, but that's one of the things I like to play with. Is like negative and positive effect. So you put a lot of details and some you don't. Like that's why I did that here. If you pay attention to that page here, there's blood, there's effect everywhere, but not on her face. And here the light, there's nothing. So that gives you the area of light, and you look at her face first. You're like, what the hell? And then you notice the rest.
Now we're getting into inking. Inking is for amateurs. This is coloring, damn it.
Well, I mean, but Sim makes a good point in that as a colorist, if you have inking skills, it can really help your coloring, because inks are the Rosetta Stone to lighting. So if you wonder where your light sources are, if you look at a page and you go, I don't even know where to put the lights. Well, pay attention to the rendering, because if you understand the language of inking, what each stroke means, its thickness, its weight, its frequency, its value, how those things all stack together, it tells the story of light. That's because inkers, unless you use like water and ink wash, you can't make gray. The way you express gray is through repetition of lines and having the lines cross and stippling and various ways to create value. That tells how much light is on a thing.
And you're saying that has to do with color? It does. See? So you go in, and now you would start going your ambient inclusion because of it.
It's just inking with color. Come on now.
And then you could just go in and put your colors on top, and you already have a good start with.
I would say the opposite, Passion. He's more coloring with ink.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Passion for hating again.
Scotsman the contrarian.
I don't think Sim pops nipples enough. I've seen a lot of women, but their nipples just aren't popped out enough for me.
Dude, so that's an armor.
I would. It don't matter. I pop the nipples out on steel. Don't matter the material. Leather. Them nipples are popping.
Stack of dimes for nipples. I mean, you're going to have to put some sort of a cup there so that they're not restricted, because you got to think about comfort in your armor as well. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's another technique I like to use. Is I go in and I work my lights like that before I start doing colors.
You work the nipples?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Back and forth or pinch? I mean, maybe both.
I don't know. Right now I'm pinching because you're turning me on.
I just put them in my nose.
What?
Nice.
You that's what I was saying. It's like you use the black, you can do your ambient occlusion pretty goddamn quick, and then you could put your colors and then just go render over it. That's another way of doing texture, because that's when I would also do stuff like this. Use the airbrush, use the splatter effect, and I could do the same thing with the light. Color, see, you got a little light effect around it. And you can put texture. And I use it. I use texture in the ambient occlusion, so like that when I use color, it just adds to it.
Nice.
There's different techniques. Sometimes I work the grays before I start doing colors. Sometimes I work the other way around.
Yeah. So the way that, we were talking a little bit about, making things look like a thing, right? So the main character here, Felix, he's wearing this big hoodie, right? That's his costume in all the normal shots before he becomes Esper. That hoodie I wanted to make it feel really thick and fuzzy, and it's always raining. So you got to imagine that it's soaking up a lot of water. So this textured brush, I want it to feel like it's pulling in water. It's heavy. It's wet because it's always raining on this planet. All the shots, thank you, Liam, that every shot has rain cutting through the line art. Every shot, there's water droplets that need to be, lassoed out and separated if you would do that kind of thing. But so if we look at like the line art itself before color, all of these ink washes here, Odie uses a lot of ink wash. And he originally was using screen tone, and I had to tell him that was a no-no, because when you put color over screen tone, you get moire patterns. So he switched it to these ink washes. But if you were to just straight color that, the K values would get too high and it would turn into mud. So this technique, this overlay technique that I created, I basically lasso out all the characters and then defeat the grayscale or the ink wash by colorizing it blue, because it's raining in on this planet all the time. So once all the color gets overlaid with it, I get this where it was black and gray values turned into blue tones, which reflects the environment around them, being that it's always wet. So it allows the characters to sit in the foreground, and the background stuff that used to be there with just the ink wash it's now not in the way anymore. You know what I mean? Your characters are now in the foreground. So using the texture brush to tell the viewer that this is a fuzzy material, there's no highlights, there's no reflections, there's no shine to it. It's merely just a fuzzy texture where I've just added value and value and value to create the shape and also to create the story. I'm telling the story of a wet, fuzzy material. In this case, we've got an action scene, and this is very, very anime, very manga. I've really went crazy with the colors here. I wanted a dynamic fight scene, so I've color holded the speed lines, and I've added the lightest value at the tip of his claw strike, right? So he draws your eye to the tip of his hand, because that's where the motion is at. And the speed lines are colored purple, which Axel's color is this deep purple, to kind of accentuate the fact that he's the one doing the movement. So tying those two elements together. And then as you get down, he dodges and tags him in the ribs. And this isn't blood. This is an anime thing. He's blowing out all this energy. And I'm keeping all the same energy signature with the color values being yellow, orange, things that are like fire. I want it to feel very dynamic and hot. And because these guys are sweating, they're fighting in the rain, but there's all this energy happening. And, you know, he's loading up this final punch before the next page where he blasts him in the mouth. This
is so gay, but go ahead.
What?
So he's talking, blasting him in the mouth.
He loads up this punch and he
loads,
blasts him in the mouth. Yeah,
he's really pounding that naked guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's pounding him right in the right in the bits, right in the places in the thing.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. It's current here. So you know, if we look at it, like for instance, Odie's original line work, he's telling me that, you know, there's a terminating line here. There's a light source coming from one side. There's a light source in the foreground on the opposite side here. So you get this strong terminating line and you know, using that light as a storyteller. I'm putting a little underglow here because, you know, we're looking at the line work. Remember, we're looking at the line work to tell us where the light is at. And because there's a thin spot in this rendering, it tells me that there's reflected light coming up underneath there. So, you know, you have to pay attention to the line work. And for this, I used a texture brush with basically with a color burn to it as I built up the values around his fist, because I wanted your eye to, you know, immediately go to the fist. You see the water like beat it up and flying off the knuckles as it's flying through space. So, and he's about to blast him in the mouth. That's what I like to point out.
Nice.
But when we talk about blood in particular, the way I do blood is
what's all that white drips coming off his appendage?
You got to get those textures in for the white blasting to the mouth.
That's right. That's right. Well, so this is a later page. This is about 15 pages later. So as you can see, Axel has this guy. His name is Axel. He's had his skin ripped off. He's been clawed in the shoulder. There's blood everywhere. He's pretty fucked right now. He's just a normal dude. He's a fighter. He's an alpha Chad. He doesn't have any special powers, and he went up against a guy who's a literal monster. Right? He's that guy, that naked guy. That's the main baddie. His name is Val.
He's the bear, right?
He's the bear daddy. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. He is, let's see. I think this is the one. Yeah. So they discover that this guy is not who they think he is. He's actually Balvor. This he transforms right in front of their eyes. And as you can see, he's got these big fucking claws. And, you know, he's about 12 feet tall. He's fucking super strong. Obviously, his abs have abs. There's all kinds of shit going on with him. He's not just a normal baddie. So if we look at this as an example here, this fucking paper is yellow. All right, so as an example of using the technique of separating the background from the foreground, you can see how thick these lines are and how frequent they are. And I can't just straight color this, because if I add color to it, I'm just going to get a blob. You're not going to be able to see the background, foreground, and midground. So you have to separate things into planes. So using those overlays and trimming out the character, letting the background be cool, foreground be warm. You can see the energy signature coursing around him, and texturing in these energy waves with literally an ink brush, just a hard edged ink brush, drawing in white and also red with linear dodge, so that I can get this the specific stacking of energy values. So you see this, you see that it's electric, or it's actually psionic energy in a way. And then adding more spit here with this is a chalk brush because I wanted to break up because I didn't want it to be straight lines. So
yeah, with Odie, he already has added in so much texture into his line work that there's not much room for it, huh? You got to add it, you know, there's only certain places. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to dial it back severely. So in the instance of this blood, like Passion was saying, I hand draw all of this. You know, this is a series of linear dodge layer, which the linear dodge layer defeats the black lines. That's what creates the base. So this is what the blood looked like to start with, right? So first I add in a linear dodge layer to lighten up the ink values so that I can work on top of it. Then I start multiplying in. We've got some splattering. We've got some undersides and ambient occlusions and some shadowing to give it some shape. And then the screen layer, that adds the highlights. And then if I need any finishing touches, I have another multiply layer on the top that kind of finish off all of the edges that I want to detail. But the way this all stacks out is it gives you it's meant to tell you that there's light in the area, that the blood is glistening, that some of it's dry, you know, using a really wet and a wet and bleedy inky brush that I have here. It's a
spoogy.
Yeah, it's very watery. So if we look at here, that kind of a wet blood look, right? Obviously not at 100% opacity, but when blood starts to dry, it gets lighter in value. You start to see the skin underneath it because the water, the liquid is evaporating and it's hardening. So you'll start to see the normal skin tone underneath it. But this type of a thing, this brush just randomly it drops some value and then bleeds. So it allows you to give the story. You can put that on like gauze or something. If you wrap up a wound and you were to hit that brush on top of the gauze, it would say that the wound underneath is starting to soak into it. But when I build up my blood values, I use a series of overlay layers with linear dodge, multiplies, and screens to build out the roundness of the blood, to show, you know, various levels of how wet it is, how dry it is, where it is in the coagulation process and all that. So there's obviously a lot of texture on this. And then for instance, this right here, she is in a phone booth and he literally just got bitch slapped, backhanded, and flew into this phone booth and crashed into it, shattered the glass. And you can see her lines are screened back because I wanted her to feel like she was behind glass. There's dust all over the glass. There's blood splattered on the glass. So I still rendered her behind it, but she's definitely in that space. She's behind all of that. So using over on top of the ink to make her feel like she's behind a sheet of glass that's just been cracked, you know. So anyway, that's kind of how I approach texturing. I try not to overpower the line work first and foremost. I want my artist to still be there, right? I don't want to become center stage. I want to be the wingman, right? I want to make him look better. And then also add depth and storytelling, because we're just as much a storyteller as the artist and the writer are. We tell story with light, color. We draw attention to places. A thing to remember too, a very valuable thing that I learned a long time ago was whenever you have a color palette and you're using a lot of similar values, if you use a color that isn't part of that palette, like let's say you're using a lot of warm reds and oranges, there's a lot of fire, maybe a lot of blood, there's a battle scene. If you put some green in there or some blue, and that's the only place where that color appears, you're immediately going to draw your eye to that spot because it has a different hue. It's different than everything around. Everything is analogous to itself except for that one spot. So if you want to draw attention somewhere, you can use a color value that's a different hue than the general tone of an entire piece and draw your focus there. So if it's the tip of a sword, if it's an arm being broken, or if it's a fist bump between two characters, I don't know, something you want to draw the eye to, you can change the value and have that place be the only place where that color value or that hue appears. And it'll draw the eye there.
Screw that. I'm just going to put fuzzy balls over everybody's coloring.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's it. That's it. It's fuzzy
balls.
Peach fuzz.
Fuzzy balls, fuzzy balls.
Well, that's great. I think we covered a lot of good stuff here, and a lot of different techniques, different brushes, different stamping techniques, using linear dodges, using burns, using overlays, using texture to add depth and value, and to really explain what shapes are, what the objects are you're looking at on a 2D surface, which is not an easy thing, and making them look good. Everybody has a slightly different technique, which is awesome. So
yeah, you'll notice there was no pasting of entire backgrounds, cars, trucks. You don't want to do that, guys. Stay away from taking other people's photos, which is their work, and putting it into your work. Try to do everything yourself. Make your own textures, take your own pictures. If you're going to use photo reference in your work, take your own pictures and develop your own style.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you'll go through periods where you use a certain technique a lot, and then you learn a new thing, and then you'll use that a lot, and your style will evolve over time. You just have to determine what's going to best make the artist you're working on look the best, right? That's repetitive, but you know what I'm saying.
How many brushes was the best brush you ever fucking had until you discovered another brush, and then it became the shittiest brush you ever fucking had?
Right.
I just use all of them.
Your job is to make things, as a colorist, is to make things look less shitty.
Yep.
That is your job.
Less shitty.
Less shitty. Yeah. Everything could be less shitty. Everything could be less shitty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everything's shitty. I'm just saying it could be less.
Exactly. Well, I think that's good. We could leave it right there. Let's go ahead and promote some projects. Let's see where we're at here. Mr. Sim, you have a little project that's in progress. What are you working on? What do you got going? What's your current campaign you're running?
Right now, I'm running Tales from the Adverse #1, and I got 75 backers so far.
Nice.
And 2 of them are digital. So right now, there's 27 sketch cards still available, because the first 100 backers of a physical book gets a free sketch card.
Ooh,
Nice.
So right now, there's 27 still available.
I gotta jump on that.
And as soon as we pass the 5K, we unlock the 3 first stickers, which is the boys. Then when we reach the 7,500, right? We unlock the girls, and then at 10 we start unlocking prints. So the first ones is mine and the 2 extra sexy prints. And then we get to the Simon Bisley, Joe Ball, and then we get to the swimsuit special. But even if we don't unlock, what doesn't unlock now will be transferred to the second campaign, because Tales from the Adverse 2 is in production right now.
Nice.
Do you have your campaign you want to show on screen, or no?
Yeah, why not? There you go. Here's my campaign on screen.
There it is. Nice.
In Canadian money, though, so let me fix that for a sec.
In Looney.
And there you go. 4,464.
Hell yeah.
So we're just a little bit more than $500 away from unlocking the first stretch goal. And
what is the stretch goal?
That's where we're going. Give me a sec. Boom. We start unlocking those.
Yes, dude.
Nice.
So the 3 first one are the boys, Zed, Nat, and Bob. And after that, we unlock Rose, Luani, and Elrica. Elrica, that's from the story Royal Rumble that Beacon is coloring, sorry.
Yeah.
And Zed, well, he comes from that Ned and Zed story that, some Scott ginger guy colorist is going to be coloring. Great guy.
Cannot wait for that.
And there's then after that, that's hold on, the Simon Bisley print that's unlockable. That's 15K.
Dude.
Nice.
That's so awesome.
So that was made to be a what they call prelim, and we call it ex libris here.
Mm.
Technically, it's something that's made for promotional. You don't sell them; it comes with a book, type of thing. You know.
Nice.
So it's gonna be comic book size, cardstock, and rich black. So it's gonna come out really freaking sweet.
Sweet. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's the Joe Ball.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's Beacon cosplaying as Nat.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not me. I don't have that glorious orange afro that Beacon has.
Here, in case you guys, that was the first drawing, one of the first drawing of Rose before she had that final redesign. That was the actual poster for breast cancer that I did in 2011, but I did the poster in 2010, but the thing was done in 2011 for the fundraising.
It looks like somebody's about to have a few less brains in their skull.
Let's just say she's working her way up because that guy shows up in the actual story of Rose.
It looks like Rose is about to put some texture on that rock face behind her.
Remember that the premise of the story of Rose, she takes over the pirates.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So she has she worked her way up. Let's just say it. So yeah, so go back Tales from the Nightverse because this is not like a one-shot thing. You're not getting number 2 in 2 years. This is my main title with the Wolf Dragon. That it's always been planned. I've always said so. So right now I'm locked into doing one Tales from the Nightverse 1, 2, 3, and I've already started working on Nat the Merc. Now I'm also working on Hellzone, which is a quick little one-shot that's going to be coming out soon. And that's pretty much it. Like I want to keep one Nat verse, one Wolf Dragon verse, pretty much. But for 2020, 2021, my main focus is Nat the Merc.
Nice.
So there's right now I'm working on the 3 first Tales from the Nightverse. Then Nat the Merc's gonna start coming out. And
Sweet.
Nice.
I also can't wait to get to Wolf Dragon, but that's something else. Dude, it's the first thing they said, like, if you do not do this, it's the main reason, because I need to remind myself, because, dude, I have 25 ideas for like 50 IPs. Get what I did? Okay. You always get more ideas, right? That's why I think that the main freaking advice that somebody ever gave me, and it was Michael Turner, is like, at least create 1 or 2 IPs that you can do anything you want, because otherwise you're going to end up like Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, and having 20 freaking IPs and not being able to, deliver all of them.
Yeah. Ink Spots, what do you got going on?
A few things. Let me share my screen. Andino, shut up. Why do we get Andino? Why can't we get Jabba the Cuck? We get like the low budget like troll. Can't we afford better trolls? God, come on.
We'll work our way there.
I'm in the stream now, so I can't troll anymore.
So next month, I'm probably going to get pages for Charlie's London's project From East Lane to the Limelight. This is an officially licensed project by the Charlie Chaplin estate. So I'm going to be coloring that. It's going to be pretty unique. We're going to have the older farther back in the story we are. It's going to start black and white, and as it comes towards current times, the book goes from black and white to sepia tones and then into full color as it gets closer to current times. So it's going to be a little bit, I get to do some unique coloring on that book. Then of course we have Cash Grab by Cecil, which I'm working on. So if you haven't backed that yet, go over there, take a look at that. And then I got to meet Jimmy Reyes yesterday. So his book Dragon Rage Cradle of Embers is out, and so if you guys, this work looks pretty damn cool, so if you guys would run over there and maybe grab a copy of that, I'm gonna get me a copy next week when I get paid. So
is that Finch drawing and he's inking?
No, this is his art right here.
I did the cover.
And okay. David Finch did do a cover. This is David Finch's cover here. And then this is his cover. And he inked David Finch. So he kind of picked up some of his style. So looks pretty cool. So, and the guy's really cool, man. He's humble and he's just glad that people like his project. So yeah, if you guys want to back someone, and he features other artists, and he's actually running contests where other artists are getting to be in the book as well. So
I've watched a few of his streams. He's a really good inker, and he's a really down to earth guy.
Yep. So yeah, go back Dragon Rage, a Cradle of Embers. So
nice.
That's all I got.
Nice.
Sweet.
Mr. Passion, do you have a little podcast?
Sorry, I'm reading Adina's comments, and don't let Inkspot color it; he'll fuck it up. Then he'll complain computer crashes because of the pen stylus. Then he goes, the one that really great. Fuck Liefeld, he owes me a comic book from 5 years ago. That's 6 or 7 right now. Because remember he did it on Kickstarter before?
Right.
Oh yeah. Fucking Andino. Guy's such a prick.
Yeah, speaking of pricks, Doom Fate just hit 11K, so I'm really happy about that. Book's coming very, very soon, here in the next few weeks. If you haven't backed it yet, we're going to be getting rid of some perks here so I can get the print files ready and do the orders. So if you haven't gotten the Epic Path, which gets you all the extra stuff, I would jump on that as soon as possible. You'll get a bunch of trading cards and prints and all that fun stuff. The mini print add-on and the trading card add-on are going to stay for a little while, and digital version obviously will be there, but you'll only pretty much be able to get the book. Same thing with sketch cards and original art. That's all going away. Same thing with the pages. Because I got original pages for sale. Those will all be going away as well. So jump on that soon, because we're gonna be going to print. Letters are finishing, and coloring is being finished up. So I'm over halfway done coloring the book. So all the penciling and inking is done. So we're getting there.
Beautiful, man.
Here's a Joe Ball. This is a Joe Ball print you get if you get the mini print tier. I colored this one.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, he did a really great job. And then this is Doodle Bags, and then this is a 2-page spread.
I know that chick. I think she gave me something.
Oh, she gave me something. But
I feel like we all know someone like that chick.
But these are all the prints you get. We got Simon did a piece. We got
the only one that's not a print yet.
Yours print might come up someday. Joe Ball did a print, and then we got stickers. I am the OG guy with the 6 a.m. stickers, by the way.
That's not true.
I
had it on Blood Hunt.
Yeah, after I did it, but that's okay. So
yeah, it's true. Always before everyone.
But grab this as soon as you can. If you like sword and sorcery, you like barbarian chicks and blood. If you're a fan of Berserk and Conan the Barbarian, this is the book for you. You're gonna have a lot of fun. And
how many backers do you have right now?
I think we're just shy of 250. Yeah, 249. So please be that 250.
Refresh? Are you sure?
Uh-oh. Do I need to refresh? 250. Oh, someone backed the book. I wonder who.
Nice.
I finally back it right now.
Oh, thanks. He did it for the line weight.
Right.
He did it to apologize that you never invited you before.
Just busting his balls. But yeah, thank you everybody back. 250 back as well. That's great. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, bud.
Yeah, but back to this book, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun, cool colors, a lot of characters, and then this is not going to be the end of Doom Fate. There'll be a volume 2 coming probably, in the spring, but I have something else planned, and some people here in this stream know about it, and it's going to be pretty badass, and it's going to tie into Doom Fate and everything. So I think it's going to be the next awesome thing in Comicsgate. So I can't wait. I got to get this done first before I can say anything. So. Yeah,
lighting is really great. I like that really bright color hold.
Thank you. Yeah, that's too bad this is not in volume 1. It's in volume 2. So I started drawing. This is 56 pages, and I started drawing the whole thing, and it ended up being 83. So I was drawing all different parts of the book. So I already have the second volume, like 10, 15 pages drawn already. And a few of them inked. And this was one of them. This was a 2-page spread I was going to do. But this is going to be held off to the next book. So you get a little peek of what's going to happen.
Nice.
But pick up the book. It's going to be fun, man. I can't wait to get it out to everybody. And then also I'll be working on Grave Robbers next. That's a book I'm doing with Mark Middleton. It's a horror Western book.
Ooh.
And that's going to be launching November 20th. So please sign up for that. There is a Doodle Bags picture, and I think he's going to be showing a Joe Ball trading card too. So some awesome
Doodle Bags pinup, like a pinup.
I think it's a pinup or a trading card. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I think it's a trading card. But I'm doing all the pencils and inks on it. I'm not doing the coloring, but I'm doing all the pencil inks on it. And it's going to be horror Western, monsters, and the old West. It's going to be demons and stuff like that. It's going to be really cool.
Nice.
Watch for that. Oh, and Raging Golden Eagle. I just finished the last page for him. So I did 11-page story for him. Finished the last page today. He's going to have
to show anything, or probably
I can't. Yeah, I can't show anything on that. But you guys will probably see it real soon, and then I believe we'll be selling the pages for that. So all the original. And it's the only, as far as I know, it's the only traditional art you can get through that campaign. So it's a cool story. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun drawing it. So
that's awesome.
What's going on with me?
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see what we got. We got Mr. Michael Beacon.
All right. Yeah, I got 7 Legions. Ships immediately. It's in on-demand fulfillment mode. Star Wars meets Skyrim and 7 Samurai. People are loving it. They're loving how I'm shipping the posters. So yeah, you can back this. I'll ship it the same day. And this month during Inktober, I'm actually the first person to back that day will get the Inktober piece I did. I'll start with this camera. This is the one I did yesterday.
Oh, sick. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be a little bit of preview into the next issue. Just doing a lot of concepting work. You can also get a piece of 11 by 17 concept art on the add-ons. And that'll be the first time these characters are being drawn. And these will be pictures that will not be available anywhere else. So, yeah. We're nearing 7K. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Chugging along there, dude. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, does the rest of the panel feel uncomfortable that you're bracketed between 2 handsome gingers?
I feel my soul leaving my body as we speak.
We're like Shang Tsung.
I feel at home.
Pulling your souls out of you. Well, very cool. So grab that 7 Legions if you get a chance. All right. So let's see. You know that I'm on a little story called Xenotype. Check that out. What's that?
I said what?
A little story called Xenotype.
Didn't that book have a really low page count?
I never heard of it.
It's got a few pages in it. It's 200 pages, I think.
Jeez.
Something
Never
like
heard of it.
You can buy a house color.
You're working on it?
That's like coloring like 6 comics.
I need it by next week.
I'm all disheveled. My wife just brought lunch in and decided to literally jitter everything on my desk. It's got me all like, what are you doing? Anyway, so we're at what? 68K dollar dues, 50K USD, 467 backers. So If you haven't seen Xenotype, check it out. It is the classic battle manga.
How many backers is it? 651.
What are we at? We're at 651. Yeah.
Go ahead and refresh it, Scott.
Oh, what do we get?
Okay, you decide to back it, Passion?
You didn't troll me.
Oh,
I didn't back it.
I still didn't back it. What a dick.
Anyway,
Fucking Passion for you.
some of the black and white art before I got to it. If you look down here, some of the side by sides. These are some of the early pieces when Odie and I were kind of getting in sync with each other, and I was kind of learning what to do with his style. It is the art's definitely evolved. He's grown as an artist along the way, and he also does digital painting. That is a piece that he drew and painted himself. So he's quite an accomplished digital painter. Like some of his gallery pieces are pretty incredible. So if you haven't seen Xenotype, get in there and check it out. It's one of only a handful of manga that are in Comicsgate currently. So check it out. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming on today and talking about textures and Passion. I'll add you to the DM group, so you just get the link. Then how about that?
I guess
It's if you're available.
I'd also like to thank Andino Palacio for taking that thing out of his mouth long enough to use his hands and type insults in the chat. Thanks, man. Hope those herpes clear up soon.
customer service.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Tune in next Sunday. We'll have another show. I haven't determined the topic yet. I'm probably confer with the panel here and see kind of what's left, because we're nearing we're rounding the bend towards completed comic book pages. We've covered most topics. There's probably a few finite details I want to hit. Maybe color holds, various ways to do color holds. That would probably be a good topic to hit. But we'll figure that out, and I'll put out a tweet this or midweek or so, kind of letting everybody know what the topic's going to be. So thanks for tuning in today, guys, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Later.
See you.